In this edition of The Wealth Creators, we get you a group which has been championing the cause of energy transition right from the beginning. And we have with us Devansh Jain of InoxGFL Group in conversation on this edition of The Wealth Creators. Devansh, thank you very much for joining us on this show.
See you.
Devansh, I was just looking at all the companies listed here and many more which are, you are incubating still. You guys have been at InoxGFL Group, been ahead of time as far as the renewable cause is concerned. It brought its own share of ups and downs as well because things are taking shape. And you, even at this young age, have been associated almost 1.5 decades already in the group. Talk to us about right from the start when energy transition was not taken very seriously, and with now everybody wants to latch on to your companies at the group. Talk to us about that.
So Ajay, I think it started thanks to the visionary decisions taken by my father, who's the chairman of the InoxGFL Group. When I came back from college, and of course, as they say, business is in our blood, we're a business family. In Gujarat Fluoro, which is the company that built, we had the world's first UN FCC registered carbon credit project. And that's what got me interested into renewables, the entire energy transition ecosystem. Dad, of course, has always been very, very supportive, has given me the freedom and the luxury of building my own ventures, running it my way. We've had a lot of challenges, lots of ups and downs, but I think it's thanks to his backing and his visionary movements that we've been able to build a large group where energy transition is at the forefront of, I think, massive value creation as we move forward.
Right. So let's move forward and talk about. So that was the generation which actually was very foresighted and initiated the ball rolling, and you are the generation which is forging ahead with new ideas and much more dynamism. Talk to us next 3 to 5 years. What kind of big trends you are actually witnessing as far as the macro environment is concerned? Is great tailwinds actually providing to your group?
Look, I think what I would like to, how I would like to put it is, I think over the past 2 to 3 years, we've laid the platform.
Right.
We've got the building blocks in place at the InoxGFL Group now, where we are going to be seeing massive growth across our verticals, across newer ventures. And what do I mean by that? So we primarily operate in 2 verticals, chemicals and renewable energy. In chemicals, at the forefront, obviously, to begin with, has been Gujarat Fluoro, which is a global champion in fluoropolymers. But we now have in the offing 3 verticals coming up. We have GFL EV, where we are setting up global scale battery chemical complexes for EV and ESS. We have GFL Green Hydrogen, which is coming up. We have GFL Semicon, which we are working towards. And I think on the renewable side, of course, there's Inox Wind, which is, after all the pain that we've survived, I think it's a multi-decade golden opportunity for us, which we are grasping with both our hands. We have Inox Green, which is our O&M play. It's actually the world's first listed O&M company. It was something which people didn't understand very easily, but I think that's going to become another fairly very large value creator in our group. And then we have a couple of other value unlocking initiatives happening in the renewable vertical besides the IPP we're building. So I think, of course, there's a lot of tailwind, but having said that, renewables today is the cheapest source of power. And I mean, you can't run away from energy transition, keeping in mind pollution, global warming, etc., etc. Whether it's the US, Europe, India, China, everyone is moving towards EVs, green hydrogen, wind, solar, and so on and so forth.
So let's break it down. You have stated that at Inox Wind, you're looking at 2 GW kind of a capacity going forward, and at O&M, almost 10 GW. What kind of timeline are you looking at, aspirationally, not exact? And the story, of course, will not stop there, right? What are you preparing for? I've seen a lot of activity at the company level in the last few months. You have turned net cash surplus now. You have, a lot of smart investors that checked into the block deal which have recently happened. What are you gearing up for in these 2 companies first, and then we talk about GFL subsequently?
Look, I think, to be honest, the first and foremost thing for me to do over the past 12 months at Inox Wind was I needed to get the entity fully back in shape. And as you mentioned, we've now got all the building blocks and the levers in place. We've got a very, very strong team in place. We've got the capital in place. We've got the supply chain, technology. We have a massive project development pipeline, which is all there. Yes, we have publicly stated our vision is to get to 2 gigs. without specifying timelines, I think it's in the near future that we're going to get there. Obviously, depending on how large the Indian market becomes, if it's going to be closer to 10 gigawatts, which we think it should be by 2027, I think we'll take a larger chunk. We have the what I would call, we have the right to win. Our break-even costs today are negative. Along with our O&M business, even if I sell 0 megawatts, I make money. I'm not saying we won't sell megawatts. Sure. We're gunning for such massive numbers now that effectively I'm probably the last man standing in the industry. And I think that's been true even when the industry went through hell. We're probably the only player which survived with 0 haircut to any banker or creditor. I think on the Inox Green side, it's a natural play of Inox Wind as well. We have stated in the next 3 to 4 years, we want to make it a 10 gigawatt play. Frankly, I think we should be doing it much earlier than that. We're evaluating a lot more opportunities, not just O&M now, because the canvas within O&M is limited in terms of what we can acquire in the market. Organically, we're growing so rapidly, and we're looking at virtually all the inorganic pieces available in the market. But I think our cash flows are going to be so large, we're looking at a lot more things to do in that
So let's
entity.
break it down a little more. For our viewers who, of course, are still understanding, we all are in that stage of phase of that renewable is a new subject itself. Can you just kind of in a ballpark figure, 2 GW at Inox Green, what kind of revenues are we talking about here whenever they happen? And for O&M as well, 10 GW, what kind of revenues are we talking about here?
Look, so at Inox Wind, a 2 gigawatt revenue run rate would be close to about 14,000 crores. And at Inox Green, a 10 gigawatt operations maintenance business would be about 1,000, but that runs at 50% margins. Right. So it's not a top line heavy business, but the bottom line is 50%. And we're looking at adding a lot more things in that to make it much larger than the broad numbers we're talking about.
So next big value accretion, if I may say, is actually happening on the O&M side?
Well, Inox Wind owns O&M, but I think Inox Wind has just started. Whatever the market expects of us, I think we're planning something much larger. We're looking at much larger things. I don't want to talk about everything at this point in time, but I think our ambitions and the things we're working towards, including the we're backward integrating into many things, which adds a lot of value, because at that size, you touch anything, we had 100 crore of incremental profitability. So we're looking at very, very low-lying products which can boost profitability even beyond the 15-16% margins we've guided for at Inox Wind.
Excellent. So you talk about vision. Talk to us about next 2 to 3 years. What is the broad vision? See, you have answered all the queries of the market. Market is worried about a lot of issues. One by one, you have ticked the, all the checklist. From here on, what is the ambition, the bigger ambition, 2 to 3 years? Or if I take about, because energy transition itself is 2030, 2032. So if we take a 2030 view, what are the bigger things on anvil?
Look, I think in the entire energy transition piece, I think in terms of ambition, I think we're a very, very ambitious group. Yes, we don't like debt, so we completely stay away from debt. My upbringing was always to be debt averse, and given the phase I went through in Inox Wind, I've changed it to call I'm allergic to debt. That does not mean we're silly and stupid about things. If we need to take short-term debt, or if we need working capital to ramp up businesses, we will do that. Having said that, we are looking at businesses which run on very high margins, niche businesses, which could be, they're not necessarily not maybe very top line heavy, but from a bottom line perspective, very, very heavy. Cash flows, significant free cash flows. We don't want paper profits. We don't want top lines with no margins and people not having liquidity and so on and so forth. Having said that, I think besides wind, green, couple of value unlocking initiatives we're looking at in our EPC ventures, I think there's going to be significant value creation emerging out of our battery chemical business. That's at GFL. It's a 100% sub called GFCLEV. I think we're going to see massive value creation thereafter in GFL Green Hydrogen, couple of other ventures. We also have our own IPP, which is in the family office at this point in time. It's called Renewables. I think that's probably going to be the fastest value creator in the group. In the next 2 years, I think that's probably going to be more than $1 billion, $2 billion.
We'll scratch that point a little more, but since you touched upon technology, and I recently saw how now you're getting global certifications for even more higher value, wind turbines, etc. And these are the areas where the bigger opportunity size opens up. Talk to us a little bit more about that, how it's very important.
Look, I think you need to be at the forefront of technology, right? If you have outdated products beyond a point in time, you're not going to be able to sell it in the market. And if you are the leaders in the market, you need to be right there. And that's true for any industry, not just wind turbines. And I think to that extent, while we now have global certifications for our 3.3 megawatt product, I'm also excited to say that our team has transitioned completely to 3.3 within 2 quarters. That's something which is unheard of in the normal parlance. We have tied up now for a larger 4X platform, which is going to be launched next year. It's a well-proven product. And I think that's probably going to be between the 3 and the 4. Those are going to be the mainstream in India for the next decade or so. So we are well geared and well positioned to capture a large chunk of the market right at the forefront of technology. And as I mentioned, that's true for all our businesses. If you don't have the right technology, if you don't have the right competitiveness, you're not going to be a winner.
Excellent. Guys, with that, we'll take a short break on the show. On the other side of the break, we'll talk about a lot of new initiatives, a lot of businesses which are still being incubated under the hood of the major company, as well as GFL, Gujarat Fluoro. A lot of stuff is happening there. We'll discuss that with Devansh right after this break. Welcome back. Still watching The Wealth Creators right here on ET Now, and the group in focus is InoxGFL. I am in conversation with Devansh Jain. Devansh, when we left before the break, the focus area which a lot of people want to understand is GFL now, Gujarat Fluoro. Refrigerants and fluoropolymers, of course, is an area of focus for a long time, and you've done phenomenal work. But that is legacy. What are the new businesses which are happening there which can really create big shareholder value going forward?
Look, so I think the biggest bet for us now is GFCL EV, where we are setting up a mega battery chemical complex. These are global scale, very, very complex businesses, very strong moats. I personally believe that's probably going to be larger than anything else we've done in the group. That's still work in progress. A lot of action which we've done on the ground over the past 2 years. We've not spoken much about it, and I wouldn't be fair for me to talk too much about it, but I think that's going to be the biggest gorilla.
So give me a sense of how the EV business, EV chemicals, how much revenue size can it achieve in the next 5-7 years? You started talking a little bit about it at the management level in the conference calls, but I want to understand the potential there.
Look, it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar play for us. In terms of revenue, in terms of profitability, I think the group is known to maintain very high profit margins. From a GFL perspective also, every time we evaluate businesses, we're looking at certain numbers below which we don't work. And I would not be able to throw too much light on it, but I think EV is going to be the biggest bet.
But I'm told that a lot of global investors have started approaching you, and for some pie in that end alone. And I think the management has indicated that at right time, value unlocking or getting strategic partners, perhaps financial partners or strategic, which one would you prefer?
Look, I don't think it's strategic partners. We've got the technology tie-ups in place. We have a very large R&D team, both in India and globally, thanks to our fluoropolymer business experience. It's not really right to say a financial partner, but it's really going to be financial investors who'll probably get a small piece of the pie. As we are known to list all our companies eventually, I would assume the eventual goal would be to list all our larger ventures. And to that extent, while we will raise some capital in EV, eventually.
So will that business also be carved out and listed separately at some point in time?
I would tend to believe so. Of course, the board of directors needs to decide that. But obviously, the group thinking is that eventually it would be listed.
There's also a sense among some of your large shareholders, which have taken feedback from, that the 3 big vehicles of the group in the listed side, of course, right now are GFL, wind, and the green, of course. But beyond that, there are some certain option values which are being incubated. If you can give us some flavor on what are the early stage ideas you're working on, and which companies are they falling under, which if in due course can actually become pretty large, which is not right now being.
Look, so across the 2 verticals of chemicals and renewables, in chemicals, obviously EV, which has been spoken about, the numbers are not there. I don't think people understand that. We've not spoken much because I think it's more important building on the ground and then going out and creating value. I think that's going to be the biggest option value. Beyond that, we've touched upon it briefly. We're working on green hydrogen. We're working on semicon.
So
I
that will
think
be under GFL.
those will be SPVs of GFL.
So chemicals which are utilized in green hydrogen as well as
so it's fluoropolymers and really in green hydrogen, and then you've got stuff which is used in semicons as well. I think these are going to be ventures which I think would all hopefully be.
What stage are they in right now? Are they really early or they are not very early? They are kind of taking shape.
I think all of them will start playing out in the next 1, 2, 3 years. Okay. All these ventures. Of course, there are some other things we're working on. It's too far apart. It's infancy. But these are projects we've been working on for a while. I think in the next 1, 2, and 3 years, depending on which vertical we talk about, I think they're going to take off in a massive way. And I think similarly on the renewable side, of course, it's now wind which is taken off. I think we're just at the cusp. I think that's one entity which is going to see massive growth. Green obviously is out there. That again, we are building to massive scale. It's a small, what I would like to call wind and GFL probably are the gorillas. Green is a chimpanzee in our group. We're building it to become a gorilla as well. And then we are working on value unlocking in our EPC arm, which I don't think is valued. I think we're looking at doing a lot of interesting stuff there, which will not only enhance profitability, but gives us a very strong moat across the larger renewable pie. Of course, it's also playing the synergies across the group. All the, the renewable, the energy transition piece is just becoming so large for us that you pick up any area and you start working on that, it just creates a lot of value.
Like IPP, the platform which you're setting up recently, initially it will feed into the group and then of course for the entire sector. Can you tell us a little more about that?
So that's in the private domain, that's being built at the family office level, where we're setting up about 1.5 gigawatts in the next 2.5 years. We initially thought of only captive, but then we realized the opportunity is so large that while it benefits the group because we don't do any capex in any of the operating companies. And in fact, we were sourcing power from other third-party C&I guys for example, Inox was building turbines. But then we said, why don't we do that and sell it at the same price so that it's a win-win across the group. And then we'll be selling a chunk of that power to C&I players as well, a couple of other avenues as well. We're looking at fairly high returns in that business.
All right, so before we wrap up, just a little few words about your style of leadership, your style of business, which is the big business leader in the Indian domain, whom you really follow and you like to read more about, and the style you are picking up to, for your own
way of managing things. As they say many times, and it may be cliched, right? You follow your father. Follow a lot of the traits of my father. Sure. His perseverance, his going into details, and being at it till the end is unreal. I don't think I'm even 1/10 of what he is, but it is unreal, his perseverance and getting into micro details. And I am hands-on in all the businesses. I've built wind with my hands from scratch. Having said that, I think besides my father, it's probably Gautam Bhai. I've had the time, the fortune to spend some time with him. He's guided me a lot. I think it's unreal. Putting aside a lot of other stuff around Adani, it's unreal. His energy, his passion to build. And I think that's what drives me. I mean, for me, just building is what matters. It's also good that I've now had a very strong team come in who are taking care of day-to-day operations. So I'm being able to spend a lot of time on implementation, ideation, and larger value creation.
Great. All right, Devansh, thanks very much for joining us and inviting us to your beautiful office and giving us a lowdown on what can shareholders actually expect from the group in the next 2-3 years. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Ajay. It was a pleasure.
Great chatting with you.